There are murders that defy all logic, cases that leave even seasoned investigators shaking their heads. There are some murders that puzzle investigators for years, leaving behind only fragments of evidence. And then there are murders like this. Events so strange, so terrifying, they defy logic entirely. In 2006, a young couple moved into a remote farmhouse in Vermont, looking for a fresh start. Instead, they found themselves at the center of one of the most chilling unsolved cases in modern history. The mystery of what happened that night has haunted everyone who's heard it since. Viewer discretion is advised. But before we dive in, make sure to have the lights on and the doors locked. In October 2006, Claire and Adam Palmer moved into a secluded Victorian farmhouse on the outskirts of Brattleboro, Vermont. Surrounded by thick woods, the property was the perfect escape from city life. But to the locals, the house was infamous. They called it the Dead Man's Farm. The nickname came from its dark past. Decades earlier, in 1973, the owner, Victor Redding, was found dead in his barn, a gunshot wound to his head. The coroner ruled it a suicide, but strange rumors persisted. Neighbors claimed Victor had become obsessed with something he found in the woods, a strange clearing where nothing would grow. After his death, the property sat abandoned for years. The Palmers weren't worried about old rumors. They were too busy settling into their new home. For the first few weeks, everything seemed perfect, but then small, unsettling things began to happen. It started with Claire's favorite necklace disappearing from her dresser. She found it days later, neatly placed in the middle of the kitchen table. Then Tucker, their dog, began growling at the door to the basement, his fur standing on end. Claire and Adam laughed it off as quirks of an old house. That is, until the night of October 27 at 11:42 p.m. Claire called 911. She sounded terrified, her voice shaking as she said, "He's outside. He's watching us." The dispatcher tried to get more information, but Claire hung up before she could explain. When police arrived 20 minutes later, they found the house locked from the inside. Adam was lying in the living room, his throat slashed, blood pooling beneath him. Claire was nowhere to be found. There were no signs of forced entry, no footprints in the mud outside. The only clue was a single bloody handprint on the living room window, too small to belong to Adam and too large to belong to Claire. Investigators searched the surrounding woods and found something eerie, a clearing just as the locals had described. Nothing grew there, not even weeds. At the center of the clearing was a pile of rocks arranged in a circle. Resting on top of the rocks was an old, rusted knife. The woods were combed for weeks, but no trace of Claire was ever found. As the investigation continued, the history of the house took a darker turn. Neighbors came forward with stories of strange occurrences. One family claimed their son woke up standing in the clearing, clutching a knife he didn't remember taking. Another spoke of seeing shadowy figures darting between the trees. To this day, the murder remains unsolved. The house is once again abandoned, boarded up, left to decay, but locals still warn newcomers to stay away from the woods and from the clearing. Some say you can still hear faint whispers on quiet nights. Others say they've seen a woman in the clearing, calling for help. But one thing is certain, whatever happened on that October night left its mark on Hollow Ridge. Thank you for listening. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to share it with someone who loves a good mystery. Until next time, remember to keep the lights on and the doors locked.